felt two very different feelings at the same time. One of shame, but then immediately with that, I felt kind of an odd sense of satisfaction, like this was filling something in me that was void. One day after school, I found in my brother's bathroom a pornographic magazine. And honestly, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I was almost scared. Like, am I to look at this? I was curious and opened the magazine up, and in that one particular moment, I was kind of thrusted into sex ed in a way that no child should ever be introduced. And it began at only the age of 10. But I knew I needed to find more of this. I began to look around my house a little bit, like, is there anything here that could give me that same kind of high, that same kind of charge that that magazine did? I knew my dad had movies that he said that I couldn't watch. And so after school one day, I began to raid his movie cabinet and would fast forward through those movies to any sex scene, adult scene that I could find. But that wasn't enough either. At about age 13, my school had internet, and so I would stay after school. I would look up naked people or sex or whatever words I actually knew what the terms were for. And soon after that, cyber sex led to phone sex. When I was 16, I began going to church with my mom and was given the opportunity to go to summer camp. I was actually terrified about going to camp. It meant 5 days without those things that I had been living with and living for. But somehow, some way, I made that decision to go. One night at the camp, the pastor said, "You have a Father in heaven who loves you and who loves you unconditionally." And to me, the idea of having a father who's always available, always there for me, a comforter, and who loves me unconditionally was something I really wanted to sign up for. And so that night at camp, I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior, but my addiction did not leave me. When I got home, even though I had made that decision to follow Christ, I went immediately back into my old routine, even more so. And this time with even more shame, and now with a kind of conviction that I had never felt before. But it would be 2 years before I'd hit rock bottom. I am in a hotel room waiting for a person to arrive who I had arranged an anonymous encounter with on the internet. It's freezing cold, I'm shaking, just thinking, how did I get here? How did I get to this point that things are so detrimental, so destructive, that I'm allowing myself to be put at risk? I'm meeting somebody I don't even know in order to fulfill this high that I'm after. And in that moment, God just met me there. I heard his voice audibly for the first time in my life, and he said to me, "Crystal, I have so much more for you than this life you're living. Trust me and give this to me right now." And in that same moment, there's somebody at the door knocking, and I know who it is, and I know that I have a choice to make in that moment to either trust God and allow him to take this from me, or open the door and I give myself away. I made the choice just to trust God and just surrender in that moment and say, "Lord, if you're really here, then take this from me. Give me a way out." And he did. The person at the door left, and soon after I did as well. I still didn't know how to come clean. I didn't know how to break free from this by myself. And so I just prayed, "God, please bring somebody into my life who I can tell this to, or who will tell me something like this." Because at that time I felt like I was the only one in the world, the only female in the world that could possibly be struggling with pornography. 1 week later, I was at a concert when I came across a woman who I'd only known as an acquaintance before this. We began to tell our stories, to share kind of our lives with one another. She said to me, you know, Crystal, I used to have a problem with pornography, and I was able to find freedom from that. I found victory in that. And you could probably see my face turn even whiter than it already is. And I said, me too. And from that moment on, I was engaged in an accountable relationship with her, but not only with her, but with God, fully surrendering not just the behaviors I was involved in, but the longings of my heart to Him. And I'm now 7.5 years sober, and I'm thankful every day that God meets you in the darkest places, in the hardest places, and He does provide you a way out, and He does provide you with help and hope.